Hello and welcome to this video about the ghosting feature in Spine. If I go to the dope sheet here, right above it we have this ghosting button here. Just gonna click that and we get the ghosting options panel. Now I just made this simple animation here of a bouncing ball, and if I go up here to the ghosting panel, I'm gonna set the frames before and after to be active. Now if I scrub the timeline, I can see sort of a trail of ghost frames, and the before is the frames that has happened before the current position of the timelines, and the after is what happens after your current position on the timeline. I'm just going to turn both of them on and go through the different options we have in here. Now the first color here is the tints of the before frames, and the blue color here is the tint of the ghosting frames after. Then here we have a drop down where we can select the background of each ghosting frame, and we can set it to none, set it to the images. Currently just a solid image, and then we have a solid here as well, which just tints the background in the same color as what you have here. Then we have the silhouette, and we have X-ray. Currently you won't be able to see a difference between silhouette and X-ray, but I'll be loading up a different project. We'll be able to see the changes, or the difference. Then we have the before frames, and it's just how many frames you want to draw, and similar you have the after frames. Then we have the frame step, and this is just currently it's set to 1. This means it draws a ghosting frame for each frame. If I set it to 2, I'll be drawing at frame 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, and so on. And then we have the keyframes here. They work similar to the frames, except they only draw where we have a keyframe. So currently I have a keyframe frame 0, 12, and 24, which means I have 3 in total. If I scroll here, you can see we have the first one here, then we have the second one up here, and the last one down here. And now that I've gone to the last frame here, see the first one disappear. That's because we didn't have enough frames to actually show it. So there we go, and so on. And the keyframe step works similar to the frame step, except it looks at how many keyframes we have. Then we have the options here in the bottom. We have anchor on top and loop. And anchor is pretty important, and as you can see here, if I set the frame step to something else than 1, you can see it's sort of like the frames are moving. Actually they're not moving, but it's calculating the offsets of the frames based on your current position. And if I set it to anchor, it will calculate the ghosting frames here based on the frames. So it will draw one for each absolute frame. As you can see, it looks like they're more static, and this is good if you want to match a frame of your animation to either a previous or a future frame. Then we have the on top. This just draws the ghost frames on top of your actual images. Then we have looping. Looping is enabled, or if you also have looping on the timeline, this just means that your animation ghosting frames will actually loop through, similar to when you're scrubbing at the timeline or playing with loop on. Now the last feature is the offset. I'm just gonna open up a new project, and so I can show you this feature a little better. So go to animate mode here, and currently, as you can see, there's a lot more going on here, and it can be a little difficult to actually see what goes on behind your your character, and even if I set it to be on top, it might be a little messy and it might be a little hard to actually make sense of it all. So what we can do is we can go in and offset the frames. I'm just going to offset them by 17 pixels on the x-axis, and this means for each frame we offset it by 17 pixels, and it's just 17 pixels per frame. So just gonna quickly scale this up here so it might be a little easier to see. What this is good for is that we can actually see that the foot here, which can be a little difficult to not get sliding, is that the heel position, the foot when it steps down it's actually relatively locked down, so we don't have any sliding here. Now I've of course been in here and I've figured out that 17 was a good offset. If I set it to, let's say, 30 instead, we'll get some sliding here. But with that said, I also know that in a game that's the amount of pixels I would want to move my character each frame. Another thing you could use that for is if you already set up your the velocity or the speed that your characters move in your game, you could set up the offset based on that and then do animations afterwards. So I hope this has been helpful, and stay tuned for more videos coming out soon.